Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse.
And you're watching In Depth
on Now You Know.
You can help support our channel by heading over to ecoware.us, where you'll find new designs every week, and we carbon offset the production, the shipping, and the life cycle of every product.
And we plant a tree for every order, so it ends up being carbon negative.
And we're partnering with Vessi.
I really had you this week when I did that thing with your phone.
Yes, you did.
These Vessi everyday sneakers are really comfy.
Yeah, they're so lightweight, it's like wearing a slipper.
Yeah, it's their unique knit top. It's made from a dual climate knit material. It's cool and comfy in the summer, warm in the winter.
But here's the big reason I wanted to partner with them. Vessi cut traditional machine times from 45 minutes to 7 minutes. So each pair's carbon footprint is reduced by over 600%.
Yeah, and I like that they're 100% vegan, no animal products anywhere.
And they're 100% waterproof. No more wet toes when I'm walking around and step in a puddle.
Wait, waterproof? How can these be waterproof? They've got a knit top.
Well, here, I'll prove it to you.
Wait, what? Whoa, hey, whoa. Hey, what are you doing with my phone? Whoa, dude, whoa, water, no, water, bad. What are you doing? You're getting my phone ruined, dude. Ta-da. Wait, they are waterproof.
These are great.
So if you're looking for a new pair of shoes, click on the link in the description and use our code NOWYOUKNOW to get $25 off your Vessi shoes.
And we're brought to you by abetterrouteplanner.com. If you want to take advantage of waypoint charging in your EV, definitely check out abetterrouteplanner.com. And if you check out our link down below, you'll get a 30-day free trial to their premium app.
And we're sponsored by our friends at the solar-powered hotels in Schaumburg, Illinois, the Fairfield Inn and Suites by Marriott and the Town Place Suite Hotel right next door. They're both connected and they're both solar-powered. All right, so when we were panelists at Fully Charged Live in Austin, Texas earlier this year, we were discussing Tesla versus other auto manufacturers, and I said something on stage that I now believe was wrong. I said that I believed Ford Motor Company would be out of business in 8 years.
So you think that you were wrong about that?
Yeah, at the time, I hadn't studied Ford's financials very deeply, and I was just kind of going with my gut.
So now you think you were wrong, and so you're going to be issuing an apology, I'm assuming. Is this what this episode about? You're going to be apologizing to Ford? Because you hurt their feelings, I think, when you said that they were going to go out of business.
I was wrong. I said Ford would be bankrupt or at least bought out or merged into another company in 8 years, and I was wrong. I recently looked into Ford's financials, and now I believe Ford will be bankrupt in 4 years.
Wait, so you're doubling down? You think that Ford is actually in a worse position than you did just 8 months ago?
Yeah, let's get into it. All right, so companies have assets. It can be physical locations like Marriott, the hotel chain, has physical hotels in valuable geographical locations.
Yeah, to compete with Marriott, you'd have to build similar or nicer buildings in all of their markets. You couldn't just build them all in Des Moines, Iowa. You'd have to build them. Oh, here's one in Pisa. Here's one in Paris. Here's one, you'd have to compete in all of those different markets.
Yeah, in fact, to truly compete, you would need to build over 7,500 hotels because that's the number of hotels they have internationally. Over 1 million rooms in 110 countries.
Okay, so what physical assets does Ford have?
Well, Ford currently owns 65 factories worldwide.
Wow. Okay, so that's something.
Well, it does sound impressive, but what is the value of an automotive factory?
I don't know, but they usually cost hundreds of millions of dollars to build, and then they're filled with millions of dollars worth of equipment and robots and conveyor belts and welding stuff and paint and tire putter-oners and windshield wiper calibrators and all sorts of stuff, right? I mean, that sounds valuable.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds like a Ford factory is a valuable asset, but let's dive a little deeper. So what determines value in real estate more than almost any other factor?
Location, location, location.
Exactly. And where are most of Ford's factories located?
Well, here's a map of them, but honestly, I don't know what you're driving at.
Well, what makes a home valuable?
If it's in a nice neighborhood, near good schools, low crime, access to public transportation, maybe, access to the highway, near fun places to visit.
Yeah, and with an auto factory, you typically want it near good transportation, like highways, rail lines, or shipping, right? And you'd also want to be near a cheap source of quality labor, and also a benefit would be low taxes.
Well, I assume Ford's factories meet all of these criteria.
All right, so let's assume that they do. You mentioned that factories are full of stuff like specialized machines, robots, and conveyor belts.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be worth a lot.
Is it, though? It's specialized stuff. It's only valuable if you're going to be making that type of car, and so it would really only be valuable if you wanted to buy the factory and continue making Ford Fiestas or F-150s.
Otherwise, all that stuff is just kind of in the way.
Exactly. When Tesla bought the 370-acre NUMMI factory site in Fremont, California in 2010, now affectionately known as the Tesla Fremont factory, Tesla paid $42 million for it.
Yeah, I remember the NUMMI plant was a joint venture between GM and Toyota that stopped being profitable, so they sold it to Tesla. So was $42 million a good price?
It was good for Tesla. That same year, Solyndra spent $733 million to build their new factory less than a mile away.
So basically, Tesla paid pennies on the dollar?
Yep.
Okay, but that could have been a fluke. I'm sure factories in general retain their value.
Well, let's take a look at Rivian. They bought a shuttered Mitsubishi Motors factory in Normal, Illinois in 2017 for only $16 million.
Okay, but that must be a tiny factory if they got it for so cheap.
Well, do you call 2.6 million square feet tiny?
I mean, I don't even know what 2,600 square feet looks like.
Okay, well, that's the size of 24 Walmarts.
Okay, I get that that's big, but I guess it's more important to compare it to like an actual factory.
Okay, well, that's half the size of the Fremont factory.
So what you're saying is that even though Ford has 65 factories around the world, they're not that valuable as assets.
Right. So what else do companies have that make them valuable?
People.
Yeah, people. People with skills, with knowledge and abilities. The problem is when you have to pivot your company to making something different,
a lot of your people are no longer valuable.
Right. In fact, a lot of those people are now actually liabilities because you're paying them every day for skills that you no longer need.
Right. You now need engineers who know how to make batteries and electric powertrains, but you just have people who know how to make internal combustion engines.
Yeah. And let's not forget about corporate culture. We talk about it all the time on the show. If your leaders and managers are living in the past, then how can you expect them to turn a huge ship around if they don't even have the vision to know that they're going in the wrong direction?
Okay, but what about intellectual property? That's a valuable thing that a company has.
Yeah, that can be a huge value to a company because if you own patents, let's say on how to make batteries better than your competitors, then you have a huge competitive advantage.
Okay, so what IP does Ford have?
Well, Ford does have a lot of patents, and they do have hundreds of EV patents, but it's not really about just the number of patents, but more importantly, the quality of those patents.
Yeah, let's be honest. The ones that we've seen in the past few years were pretty lame.
Yeah, like this recent patent filing for a pickup truck range extender that fits in the bed like a toolbox.
Well, that sounds cool. Some kind of extra battery box that you stick on the back of your car to extend the range?
More like a gas engine that powers a generator.
Wait, that's Ford's idea? Their cutting-edge IP is to take up valuable bed space with a gas-burning engine and a gas tank?
Uh-huh.
Why didn't they just put that in the truck? If you're going to make an electric truck, why be like, and if you want to put the motor on it, you can put it in the back.
Yeah.
How is that innovative?
It's not.
You could have just put it in the truck.
Agreed. Yeah, so you see, all patents are not equal. And with IP, the clock is ticking. Not only do patents expire, but also tech is moving so fast that if you're not constantly on the cutting edge, older tech becomes worthless quickly.
Okay, so Ford's physical properties aren't that valuable. Their employees are more of a liability, and Ford doesn't have that much cutting-edge IP. So do they have anything valuable?
Well, valuable companies have valuable brands. Brands that people know and trust. The question with Ford is, how valuable are their brands?
So they got the Ford brand, and they've got the Mustang brand.
Mm-hmm.
You've got F-Series pickup trucks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a sub-brand. It still says Ford on it, but it's F-Series. Everyone knows F-150.
Mm-hmm.
Bronco, they're re-coming out with the Bronco because it has a strong brand for, past association.
Yeah, I mean, so they're using the Mustang brand with the Mach-E, and you're right, they have the best-selling pickup truck brand in the U.S. with the F-Series pickup. Both brands have loyal followings. The Bronco brand you mentioned first came out in 1966, and it lasted for 30 years, but it never sold that well. It peaked in 1979 at about 104,000 units sold, so it averaged around 40,000 cars a year.
Okay, but it's not a hot seller, but the imagination of it, the romance of the past is kind of an interesting thing, and we'll see how the new Ford Bronco does, right?
Yeah, and Ford has other brands like that, like the Fiesta and the Focus and the Edge.
Well, I wouldn't say that they're iconic. And
No.
they've also discontinued a bunch of those. Okay, but so even if I buy your arguments about Ford not being valuable in terms of assets, they still sell a lot of cars every year, and they have dealerships everywhere.
Yeah, let's talk about dealerships, because you're right, Ford has a lot of dealerships. In fact, they have over 9,800 dealers worldwide.
See? So that's an asset.
Well, it's an asset in the sense that Ford has a network of dealers who have to buy their vehicles.
Wait, so Ford dealers have to buy Ford vehicles?
Yeah, if you're a Ford dealer, you have quotas. You have to buy a certain number of Ford vehicles from Ford every month. You pay for them up front, usually financed through Ford's own financing arm, and then you have to make payments on them until they're sold.
What?
Yep. That's why dealerships are always desperate to get cars off their lots.
Come on down, visit my Combustor dealership on the Auto Mile.
Yeah, those Combustor 9000s are costing the dealer money every day that they sit there.
Okay, but even though that sounds like it sucks for dealers, it must help Ford, right?
Well, let me ask you this. Isn't a dealership just a middleman?
Yeah, I suppose.
And don't middlemen just jack up the price of whatever you're buying?
I mean, I guess that's why people like buying direct, like at a factory outlet and stuff like that, because all those dealers and salesmen have to get paid, and that does increase the price of whatever you're buying.
Right. And even though Tesla does have to have delivery and service centers, the way a prospective customer goes about buying a Tesla vehicle is through Tesla's website. This is dramatically cheaper than the tens of thousands of employees that Ford dealerships have to hire as salespeople and managers and finance people, all to get a customer into a new Ford.
Right, because Ford and their dealerships make most of the profits from parts and service, because internal combustion engine cars break frequently and need routine maintenance. And from experience, I can tell you that EVs really don't. Okay, so dealerships aren't a strong point for Ford. I get it. But Ford does sell millions of cars every year. Heck, they made $53 billion in revenue in just the first 6 months of this year.
Revenue's great, but for an established company, profit is what counts. And here's one of Ford's biggest problems. They're operating at a loss.
But Ford sold almost 1 million vehicles in the first half of 2020, 950,000 vehicles. How could they be losing money?
I don't know. I don't run the company, but what I do know is that Ford had a total revenue of $54.6 billion in the first half of 2020, but had an operating loss of $4.3 billion.
Okay, but I heard that Ford is blaming it on the fact that they have so much debt. They're still paying back their $6 billion government loan from 2009, the bailout.
You're right. Ford is still paying back the U.S. taxpayers for that loan, but here is the line item for the interest payment on that loan, $653 million. Even without those loan payments, Ford is still losing $3.6 billion from operations.
How could Ford have negative profit if they're selling almost 1 million cars?
I'm just telling you what Ford's financial reports are saying. Look here. Ford made $47.9 billion in automotive sales. Now let's look at the cost of those sales, $48.5 billion.
So you're saying it costs more to produce these vehicles than they make from selling them?
I'm not saying that. Ford is.
Okay, but what could be causing this? Ford has been selling cars for years, decades. They must know how to do their business profitably.
Well, remember that they did have to get bailed out 12 years ago. And remember that Ford has all but stopped selling sedans because they're so unprofitable. All that Ford really has left are its pickup trucks. The Ford F-150 is pretty much it now for Ford. Basically, these numbers are showing that on average, it costs Ford more to make a vehicle than they're selling it for. They have negative margins on their cars.
So I guess that means that they're not efficient enough.
Or maybe they're spending too much on marketing and advertising. I don't know. I mean, they did spend $2.3 billion on just U.S. advertising last year.
So every car that Ford sells is costing them money.
Right. That means that even if their sales go up, Ford's bottom line isn't going to get any better.
Okay, but Ford has a lot of money in cash. They're going to be able to weather this.
All right, let's see how much cash Ford has. Right now, they have $30.9 billion in cash.
See? That's tons of cash. Ford is going to be fine. I don't know what you are so worried about with them going out of business. They're not going to go to $30 billion.
Well, if Ford can't quickly figure out how to make their cars profitable, they're going to burn through this cash at a rate of $4.3 billion every 6 months, or $8.6 billion a year. Let's do the math. 30.9 divided by 8.6 is 3.6 years of burn left.
Okay, but this has been a very tough year for every manufacturer. It's not just Ford.
And that actually helps my argument. Because first, not every auto manufacturer has been having a bad year. Tesla has grown its sales year over year. But you're right, every ICE manufacturer has lost sales this year, which leads to my second point. Look at Ford's sales in the first half of 2019. $73 billion in sales versus only $48 billion in the first half of 2020. Ford is losing sales, and they're going to lose market share as well. I mean, how is Ford going to be able to turn it around next year? The Mach-E? They couldn't even make enough of those if they wanted.
Okay, but are they really losing market share? I mean, look at this chart. Ford has done better than GM, Toyota, FCA, BMW.
But they've done worse than Volvo, Mazda, and Tesla. And Ford has only 2 segments left, pickup trucks and SUVs. And Ford makes a lot of money financing the cars they sell. And so as those car sales go down, it's also going to lose the revenue from its financing arm.
Oh, because you get more money by financing something because you have interest on it. So for every sale that they lose, it's not just the price of the car, it's also the price plus interest.
Right.
Okay, so how did it get this bad for Ford?
Well, they haven't been electrifying their fleet. What do they have for electric cars right now?
They have the Ford Focus Electric.
Nope, they stopped making that in 2018.
Okay, the C-Max.
Nope, they stopped making that in 2019. Tesla came out with the Model S in 2012. In the past 8 years, Ford has come out with no standout or long-lasting EV.
Okay, but what about the Mach-E?
What about it? First of all, it's not out yet. Its direct competitor, the Model Y, is ramping up production and have probably sold about 50,000 already, while the Mach-E is still months away. And Ford just announced that it's dropping the price of the Mach-E from $1,000 to $3,000, depending on the variant.
Okay, so why would they do that?
Probably because sales are soft.
Okay, all right, okay. But what about the Ford F-150? They still have that, right?
Do they, though? I mean, when electric pickup trucks hit the market, they are definitely going to take market share against ICE pickup trucks.
That's a really good point. I mean, because, even if it's a small portion, even if it's 10%, that's still 10% out of the total market, which is going to hurt Ford by 10%. And if EV pickups do better than that, and if they grow, that's going to hurt Ford even more.
Yeah, and who's going to hit the market first?
Lordstown Endurance is due out January 2021.
Yeah, the Rivian R1T is due out June of 2021.
Then the Tesla Cybertruck is late 2021.
Then the GMC Hummer pickup truck is due in the fall of 2021.
And then the Ford F-150 electric pickup truck is due mid-2022, which is a year later than pretty much all the rest.
Yeah, it was smart that Ford invested in Rivian, and I'm sure that that's what's enabled them to have an electric pickup truck at all.
Yeah, but it's still going to be a year later than the rest. And we still haven't seen any specs on this EV F-150.
Other than it can tow a train. So, I mean, there you have it. Ford has no vision. Their last CEO, Jim Hackett, who had the helm for 3 years, basically cut sedan production to focus on their most profitable SUV and pickup truck models. And that was it.
I mean, based on everything you just laid out about Ford, their financials, their lack of leadership, lack of assets, their inability to pivot, they are a sinking ship.
Yeah, they're taking on water fast, and they have no real plan how to save themselves.
I mean, and meanwhile, Tesla keeps innovating and growing, and every day more and more people learn about EVs, and Tesla keeps making new and different EVs. Maybe Tesla will buy them.
Yeah, I just don't see that happening. I mean, Ford doesn't really have anything that Tesla needs. Tesla doesn't need Ford's factories because Tesla builds Terafactories. Tesla has the best people, and they attract the best people. And Tesla has an amazing brand. And as the ship sinks lower in the next couple of years, Ford will probably try to merge with another car manufacturer to save itself. But what does Ford have that even other big auto companies want? Ford waited too long to get into EVs, so I don't even think that's very likely. I think they're doomed. Look, people, I'm not happy about this. I don't want people who work at Ford to lose their jobs. In fact, the only people at Ford I don't particularly care for are the ones who steer the ship. They're the ones to be blamed for sinking the ship.
Well, and here's the really annoying part. The leaders at Ford could have seen this coming, and they have a great story that they could just kind of copy. Henry Ford was an innovator. Over 100 years ago in 1913, he implemented a new innovation for the time, a way to build cars faster and cheaper than ever before. And this meant that many people could now afford transportation. 15 million Model Ts rolled off the assembly lines into American roads.
But Henry Ford was also a ruthless businessman who made sure that his family would always stay at the helm. And so you could say that baked into the DNA of the Ford Motor Company is Henry's own DNA.
Which would have been a perfect thing. Like, my great-grandfather, Henry Ford, did a major innovation. And therefore, today we are going to be doing a similar innovation. We are going to be switching our entire business model to EVs, and the world will tremble at the might of Ford. That's all they had to do.
And I guess that's why I'm not lamenting the death of Ford.
I mean, you may have fond memories of driving around in a Ford.
Heck, my dad used to own a green 1970 Ford pickup truck, and I have fond memories of watching the road roll along beneath our feet.
But you could see that?
Oh, yeah, the floorboards were rusted out, so you could see the road.
But don't get too teary-eyed, because this is the same company that opposed seatbelts and pollution controls.
Yeah, here's a quote from Henry Ford II responding to the first motor vehicle safety standards. Many of the temporary standards are unreasonable, arbitrary, and technically infeasible. If we can't meet them when they're published, we'll have to close down. And then here's a quote from Susan Chesky, who's discussing the requirements of the Energy Independence and Security Act that have led to the strong standards we have today. We don't even know how to reach 35 miles per gallon by 2020. Not in a viable way. It would break the industry.
And I guess that's why, we're not lamenting the demise of the Ford Motor Company. They are dying a slow death because they focused on the wrong thing.
Yeah, they went with bean counting instead of innovation. When faced with declining sales, Ford decided to cut. When they should have spent. And they decided to advertise.
Come on down, visit my Combustra dealership on the Auto Mile.
When they should have imagined better solutions. Jim Hackett just retired as Ford's CEO, and Jim Farley is coming in as his replacement, seen here on the left.
Who's on the right?
Ford's executive chairman, Bill Ford Jr.
Like Ford, like from Ford.
I wasn't kidding. Henry Ford put his descendants in control of Ford forever.
Like a king.
Yeah. And Ford's CFO, Tim Stone, has now left after only 18 months. Now, to put this in perspective, Ford had 11 CEOs in 117 years, but 4 in the past decade. Just think about that for a second. Worst of all, Ford, you decided to put profits ahead of our planet and our health. You could have developed clean cars that don't emit pollution from tailpipes, but you chose to keep doing it the way you've always done it.
So goodbye, Ford. You need to go now because you've chosen to spend your capital in places that are hurting, not helping. You had your chance to join the sustainable revolution. Heck, you could have let it. But you'll just be a footnote of history.
I want to give a shout out to YouTuber Tom Nash. You should go check out his channel for great insights into other companies.
It's sad, really, that, you had this company based in innovation. That was the whole key driving. That's what's in the textbooks. Henry Ford, innovator. The whole way that we produce cars, the whole assembly line, he got to put his rubber stamp on that and said, that's my idea. And then that was it. For 100 years, nothing happened.
Yeah, you set up a company culture based around the fact that we are innovative. You just walk around telling each other all day long.
we are innovative.
We are.
I am innovative.
Right.
That's like walking around saying, I am strong. I am strong. I'm strong. Why won't you believe me that I am strong? I keep saying that I'm strong. Well, my great-great-grandfather was strong, so therefore I must be strong. And this company was strong, so we're now strong.
Right.
It starts to lose its meaning when you're just saying innovation, 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 innovation. If you're not actually innovating, then you're not actually doing anything. You're just taking a legacy and trying to profit on it for as long as possible without doing any work.
Yeah, and most of my argument is based on this one simple fact. And if you believe this fact, then you'll probably see it the way I do. And if you don't, you're probably going to argue with me. The simple fact is that cars are going to become electric. So if I'm wrong, then Ford would probably be all right. But if I'm right, they're gone.
Even if you're not right, even if most cars don't become electric, even if just some segment of the pickup truck market becomes electric, it's going to hurt Ford so bad that they are not going to be able to come back from it. Even if they take 20% of Ford's pickup truck market, that's basically just taking a 20% chomp right out of Ford itself.
And you can imagine right now that Ford is probably trying to cut costs and they're looking at their advertising budget. But you know what? If they cut that $2 to $3 billion advertising budget, they're gone because they live and die by that.
Right. They don't have the products that actually speak for themselves in the way that Tesla does. Tesla hasn't spent a penny on advertising in the United States at all.
And I just want to go back to the pickup trucks for a second. Tesla put on one event where it didn't even go right. There was some problems with the event, and yet there's over 600,000 people signed up with money down to get the Cybertruck. So when that truck hits, it's going to blow away the truck market, and it's going to start to eat into Ford's only profitable truck, which is the F-150.
And just one last final nail in the coffin. The truck that Tesla's coming out with doesn't look like a pickup truck.
No.
It screams to your eyeballs. It says, the future is here. This is the future. Everything else is old.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you love trucks. You can love old pickup trucks. You can think that they're beautiful. That doesn't mean that you're going to go out and buy one tomorrow. You're going to buy the latest and greatest. And if the latest and greatest is this big, shiny, blocky, what the heck is it? Even if you don't want to buy it, you're going to know that the time has come to make the switch, because throw a hammer at it all you want, it's going to bounce right off.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for watching this episode of In Depth. We come out with In Depth every single Friday. Please hit the subscribe button so you can be a part of it. If you like this episode, hit the like button. It'll help the YouTube algorithm share this with other people, so that way they can either go tell someone at Ford to get their act together, or they can maybe divest.
And help support us by going to our Patreon, where you can join for as little as $1 a month. And if you want to join our new investor club, which actually we're going to have a president of a company on with us tomorrow.
Automotive company.
Yeah. So that should be fun. Yeah. So head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/nowyouknow.
Thank you so much for watching. Now you know.